All right, thanks for tuning in to more NFL Draft Talk on the Ourlads Football Network. As we talk New York Giants football, we go inside their depth chart with Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post. Ryan, nice talking to you again.
What's up, Greg? How are you?
Good. And I want to remind everybody also, we just recorded a very short report on the Giants' home schedule, which was just released. You can check that out. The full story at New York Post. Ryan just put that out about a half hour ago, so it's been just recently published. And Ryan, and we're not going to know officially the entire schedule until tonight, correct?
We'll know it all. I mean, at least for the Giants, I can't speak for every team's beat writers, but between the 20 people who cover the Giants, you'll know the whole Giants schedule tonight, but well before tonight. But maybe some teams. We already know the Thanksgiving games. We know a Christmas game. So I think most of the key points will be out. Maybe they'll keep some primetime games under wraps.
All right. Well, again, just check that out. That's available at Ourlads.com and on the YouTube channel as we go over the Giants' home games, which are official, the dates, the opponents, and also a little bit of little nuggets about possibilities of some of the road games, primetime games, and so forth. All right, let's talk NFL draft for the New York Giants. And the big story, which just keeps becoming more and more of a story, is how the Philadelphia Eagles moved ahead of the Giants and selected DeVonta Smith at wide receiver. It just seems like every day there's just a new slant on what's going on or what took place with that deal.
Yeah, that trade was wild. I mean, you don't see division teams trade very often, certainly not in the first round. Obviously, the Cowboys had to be pretty sure the Giants weren't going to take the guy they wanted to move down. The Eagles had a good idea. The Giants wanted DeVonta Smith. It's kind of who in the last 48, 72 hours before the draft I thought they'd wanted and most people thought they wanted. It would have been tough for the Giants if Surtain or J.C. Horn was there. They would have probably had to pick one of those two guys or Waddle or Smith. Those were kind of the four guys I heard they had circled. Originally, I thought they might want Rashawn Slater. That turned out not to be true. So the Eagles jumped them, and then the Giants did something really smart. And when you get jumped, you can either panic or pivot. And the Giants pivoted, and they come away with a first-round pick next year from the Bears, which, if the Bears play Justin Fields, most rookie quarterbacks struggle, that could be a top 12 kind of pick next year that the Giants have in a much, much stronger draft. So, and they got a fourth-rounder in the trade for next year, and they got the Dolphins' third-rounder in a separate trade. So the Giants are well-stocked in the 2022 draft.
Yeah, because lo and behold, Dave Gettleman, he decided, I am going to trade down. A new concept had never been done before, something that we talked a lot about heading into the draft.
Yeah, he had never traded in 8 drafts as a GM with the Panthers, and the Giants had never traded down. He said his reasoning was he had trades in place that had fallen apart because a guy gets picked before the trade is consummated, and he had said he's not going to get fleeced. Well, there's two things at play here. One, conspiracy theorists will tell you that this is Joe Judge's power. This is his influence, obviously coming from Bill Belichick's wing, where Bill Belichick loves to trade back and value quantity. So that's very possible that has something to do with it. And it's also very possible that Gettleman just has incredibly high standards on what it means to not get fleeced. And this is the first time he's ever been offered a future first-round pick. And that's very possible. It's actually the first time in New York Giants history that they're going into a season with another team's first-round pick.
Wow. So that means that for the first time ever, they will have, so it doesn't matter whether or not it's 2 picks, just the fact that it's someone else's first round.
Correct. Like they traded Odell Beckham for the Browns first round pick, 6 weeks later. I'm saying this is the first time they've ever been able to have a whole scouting season knowing they have an extra first round pick.
That's pretty intense. And this is a good time for the franchise, too, because this is what you have to do. You have to rebuild. There was a lot of talk about would Gettleman even have the job at the end of the season. So this is a huge draft for him, and we'll see how it turns out. But good so far, so good because of the fact, again, he was able to accumulate that additional pick, which I'm sure he's going to hope that he'll be able to be a part of next year. And that's going to depend on how a lot of these draft picks go this year. So before we harp on that, though, just want to remind everybody the 2021 NFL Draft Guide at Ourlads.com is available. Go to Ourlads.com to pick this up and also order early because the 2021 Draft Review Guide, this is last year's Draft Review Guide, is going to be out soon. And we'll have a take on every team, go over all the picks and all the premium free agents and all that kind of stuff that we're going to be doing on this show for the New York Giants and all the other shows that we've been doing here on the channel for all the other teams. But you want to definitely pick this up, the 2021 Draft Review Guide. It's coming out in a little over a month. Okay, let's start at the top. Right after the trade, they trade down, and again, they picked up the picks, including next year's first. And Kadarius Toney was the first pick. And since the Giants were pretty high on a receiver at that spot, turns out that they pick up one of the other receivers a little bit later on. How surprised were you based on the position or the player that the Giants went wide receiver with the first pick?
There's a lot there. Good question. I wasn't surprised they would go wide receiver at 11. I was very surprised they went wide receiver at 20. I thought that was the right spot to marry need and edge rusher at that time. Now, look, they ended up making a great pick in day 2. We'll get there, I'm sure. But I was surprised they didn't target a Kwity Paye. Jalen Phillips was already off the board. So I was surprised they went wide receiver at 20. I'm surprised they went that wide receiver at 20 because Kadarius Toney's a really good player. I just think he's a much better fit for Urban Meyer offense or a Sean McVay offense or a Kyle Shanahan offense. I don't know that he is a great fit for what the Giants currently do, a team that runs the least motion pre-snap in the NFL, a team that is very, standard offensive playbook and not, gadget plays and motions and jet flies and sweeps. Now, look, the Giants did try some crazy, end arounds to Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram last year. You don't see a lot of tight end arounds. Kadarius Toney will be much better on those than those two guys were. But those are, one play a game, 2 plays a game. So to get him involved in the offense, as a 40 snap guy, I think the Giants are going to have to redo some of their playbook, and that'll be Jason Garrett's challenge. So, yeah, I was surprised they went wide receiver. I was surprised they went Kadarius Toney, but I still overall love the move to trade back.
I thought it was interesting. Just reading in the profile of Toney, one of the points that was made is that the right offensive mind can make him a dangerous weapon. Do the Giants have that offensive mind?
I mean, Jason Garrett has not shown that he can do that. He's obviously had explosive offenses when he was with the Cowboys. The Giants' offense last year was ranked 31st in the league in points. Now, they didn't have Saquon Barkley, so that's not entirely fair. But, no, I don't know. I think the jury's very much out on that question. But Jason Garrett, if he has a big year, could be a head coach next year. If he has a bad year, could be fired.
Yeah.
So you don't make a pick really for 1 year because you expect Kadarius Toney to be there at least 4 or 5 years, and who knows what the next offense looks like.
Okay. What about his character? Because we know there's some durability concerns, so it's either going to be an issue in the NFL or it's not. But what about the character concerns?
So he has 2 gun incidents. But they are not arrests, which is very important to distinguish. They're not arrests. He got pulled over with a gun in his back seat, loaded in Florida. That's not illegal in Florida. He did not get arrested. He got stopped. He got questioned. He did not get arrested. And then he had an airsoft gun that was painted to look like a rifle. that he was using, I guess, in an incident in a park, according to police. He said it both times. He said it was for protection against the locals who were harassing the Florida football players. So he has no arrests that we know of. So, look, the Giants have been through the ringer with DeAndre Baker, arrests, with some immaturity with Eli Apple, with Eric Flowers. They are sensitive to this. I think it's why they didn't target Micah Parsons, because he has some of that stuff in his background, some allegations. So I was, again, when they passed on Parsons, I was surprised they went with Toney. Just not that it's apples to apples by any means, just that it's not a, clean, no questions asked kind of character, on the red, yellow, green character flags, that it's not green. And so I was very surprised. But Joe Judge is very serious about this. He takes it incredibly serious who he brings in his locker room. We know he's passed on guys in the draft and in free agency who he thought were not character fits. So if he thinks Toney's a character fit, he gets the benefit of the doubt, because, the past mistakes of Baker and other guys are not on his record.
All right. The Giants run a 3-4?
Yes,
okay.
Mostly. Hybrid.
Being that's the case, isn't this draft is definitely going to have, you just mentioned Parsons. That is going to be a big part of this draft for the Giants, because we talked about how long it's been since they've, and look, Blake Martinez had a great year last year, but their own homegrown linebacker, especially in the middle, somebody that could dominate, get back to the old school Giants football, they passed on that. And not only did they pass on that, but the Cowboys picked them up. So that's going to be a huge part of this draft, isn't it, for the Giants?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime you pass on somebody and if they become a big star, it becomes something that haunts you. And if they don't, like when they passed on Dwayne Haskins, it looks like a brilliant move. So I think that always kind of follows you in a draft. Parsons would, I think, as a football player, have really helped the Giants. Now he's with the Cowboys. That could be, if he becomes a Hall of Fame linebacker, you'll be reading about that decision for 12 years that the Giants passed up on Micah Parsons. But I thought they needed more of a pure pass rusher than they needed a great linebacker. And they're hopeful they got him in Azeez Ojulari.
Yes, and that is pick number 2, because Ojulari has a first-round grade, yet he slipped all the way to the Giants in round 2. I guess a couple of things that might have been the reason he slipped, he needs a little bit more fine-tuning in his pass rush moves. He's got to build, and he's going to get bigger, but he definitely needs to get bigger. He's got to bulk up, but also a little bit inconsistent technique. That's still okay. That's all coaching, and that shouldn't have any big influence on whether or not you like a guy or not, especially in the NFL nowadays. Everybody's looking for these premier edge rushers. So have you been able to figure out why a player of that caliber in that type of a need position was available when the Giants picked him?
Well, there's a lot of talk about his knees. I don't know this. This is all reported from other people that some teams took him off their board because in the medical exams that the NFL did, some degenerative arthritis conditions came up. But what I do know is he didn't miss games and he didn't miss practices at Georgia. So maybe that's something that shortens his career. But I think from a second-round pick, if you get 4 really quality seasons out of him, that you don't need him to be a 12-year player. Sure. Like if you get 4 really quality seasons and then his knees start to wear down, that's unfortunate for Azeez Ojulari. But that's not really the Giants' concern. Like, what are we going to do with him in 2025? It's what can he do for us for the next 4 seasons.
And the other thing, too, is I find it interesting that, as you mentioned, Baker, we've talked about this before, and some of the character concerns, and then the first 2 picks, and we talked about the gun situation with Toney, and then here's another, not that Ojulari has had any issues, but he comes from Georgia. We know we talked about that. It's just very weird how some of these players over the last few years have just not panned out. They've had some issues, character concerns, red flags, things of that nature, and yet the Giants' first 2 picks, there's a little bit of, okay, is there anything there? But you have to take chances. We just
look, the Giants discussed Ojulari at one point 6 weeks, a month before the draft, as possible 11th pick. So they passed on him at 11.
Oh, you can't. Yeah, that's
passed on him at 20. Passed on him at 42 to trade back to 50, and then got him at 50. Yeah. You can't argue with that.
Oh no, absolutely. That's because it is much different if you're picking him at 12. That
11.
At 11. Yeah. Now we've got now that's that, and that really, because it's important that you brought that up, because that pretty much puts you in a position where you just, even if something does happen, the pick was where it was. I don't even look at it as a gamble, because again, it's not like this individual person's got any character concerns. It's just that we're talking about some of the baggage that some of his former teammates have had.
And the knees. The knees would be a much bigger concern at 11. I mean, look, the best for Giants fans who are listening, they picked, I don't know, was it 2011, 2012? They picked a running back, David Wilson. Remember him? He did backflips in the end zone when he scored a first-round pick. I think he went to Virginia Tech.
Wow, I don't even remember David Wilson.
Yeah, he was the first-round running back, and he was explosive as all heck. And then he hurt his neck and couldn't play anymore. He played 2 seasons. And so that's not the Giants' fault. You can't see that coming. Sure. That's not David Wilson's fault. He loved football. But that's a busted first-round pick. Yeah. You got 2 seasons out of a first-round pick. Yeah. So,
all right. With the 3rd pick, the Giants went with Aaron Robinson. Now, Aaron Robinson, is he definitely going to battle for the nickelback role?
Yeah, that's the plan. Him and Darnay Holmes, last year's 4th-round pick, will battle. And obviously, you can never have enough corners with injuries and whatnot. So I think Aaron Robinson also has some perimeter ability. He could, if Adoree Jackson goes down, he was injury plagued last year. If James Bradbury, who's kind of an Iron Man, comes up with something, then you could slide Robinson to the outside. And Holmes, I don't think they trust on the outside. So I think Robinson has a leg up there. I think he's probably the favorite going into that, but you'll still see plenty of Darnay Holmes.
Okay, then round 4, another defender, 3rd straight, Ellerson Smith. And as I mentioned when we first started talking about this, what was it, last week, I guess, this was a player that I liked and I still like. You didn't see anything out of him last year because of COVID, so you got to look at 2019. He had a monster season at Northern Iowa, including 14 sacks. Still a very raw player. Again, a lower level kind of deal. But he showed that he can play with the big boys because he had a really good week at the Senior Bowl. Outstanding height, length combination with big hands, long arms, huge upside. Where does he fit in? And a matter of fact, I might as well ask you the same thing about one of the top, if not the top, rookie free agents they signed, Raymond Johnson, who we'll get more into a little bit later on. But same thing. Where do these guys fit in the scheme for the Giants? Are they going to try to make these guys into 3-4 edge rushers? Because size-wise, that has to be the case.
I don't know anything about Raymond Johnson. You all have to take that. But Ellerson Smith, yes, he'll be a 3-4 edge rusher. Look, the Giants have a really young rotation. Ojulari will be there. Ellerson Smith will be there. Last year's picks, Carter Coughlin will be there. Cam Brown will be there. You're talking about a bunch of 1st and 2nd year guys who are going to be coming off the edge. The Giants got a lot of pass rush by committee outside of Leonard Williams last year, and that's probably what they're looking for again this year out of these young guys. Yeah, it'll be kind of a developmental specialist role, and the Giants have the good fortune of having a defensive tackle who can get 11.5 sacks in a season, so not all of their pressure has to come off the edge.
Yeah, actually, Raymond Johnson, similar size. Weight, I should say, because Smith is 6'6", but they're both about 260. And that's pretty much what they're going to. And look, Raymond Johnson was a 6th-round grade, so not a huge deal discrepancy, but still somebody that could have been drafted as high as the 6th round for the Giants to be able to pick him up after the draft, but more of a guy that is only going to be a role player, and that's about it. He had 16 and a half career sacks as a 4-year starter. He was a 4-year All Sun Belt, a whole bunch of different mentions and so forth over his career, but that's the Sun Belt. He'll probably end up as a practice squad player early on in his career. Round 6, Giants went with Gary Brightwell, the running back from Arizona, a big physical downhill runner. And how does he fit with the offense? They signed Booker in the offseason. Does he have a chance to be the number 3 running back?
I think he will be the number 3 running back, yeah, and he'll be a core special teamer. It should not surprise you that Joe Judge loves special teamers, being a former special teams coordinator. So that should not surprise anybody. The Giants' assistant special teams coach, Tom Quinn, is really the one who kind of discovered Brightwell, brought him to the Giants' attention. They were looking for a young running back. They haven't drafted a running back since Saquon was the number 2 pick in 2018. So they were looking to add another young running back. And the idea that it's a guy who not just plays special teams, loves special teams. Gary Brightwell talks about special teams like he prefers it to running back. So he'll earn a spot on the roster for sure, maybe a gunner or something like that. And from what I've heard, he likes to be the one to deliver the hit, almost like a defensive mentality. So I think he was a really good pick.
All right, and then round 6, the second pick went on defense. Rodarius Williams. This might have been the bargain for the Giants after Ojulari, because Rodarius Williams had a 4th-round grade. So for him to be available in the 6th round, that really seemed to be a bonus. A 4-year starter at a school like Oklahoma State, and he's the older brother of Greedy Williams, the cornerback with the Cleveland Browns. So good value for the Giants in round 6.
Yeah, you don't hear that a lot, right? That he's older than his brother, who's now entering his 3rd year in the league. So it's funny, the Giants passed on Greedy Williams for DeAndre Baker a couple years ago. Now they have Rodarius Williams. So, I think, again, he's an older guy. He's going to be 25 during the first week of the season, which is crazy because Ojulari's 20. So you're talking about a 5 year. They weren't even in high school at the same time. That's crazy. A flyer on a guy with some experience. Again, can't have too many corners in this league. Wouldn't be surprised if he starts the season on the practice squad. Bad news for a couple other guys like Sam Beal and who is the cornerback that started all those games last year? Isaac Yiadom. Yep, Isaac Yiadom. Probably bad news for them that the Giants used 2 of their 6 picks on corners. One other theme here that's worth mentioning is 4 of those 6 guys are part of the Senior Bowl. That's similar to last year and the year before. I believe the Giants have picked more players from the Senior Bowl in the last 3 years than any other team.
Okay, well, we'll have to keep that in mind for next year's draft. And then
at one point, they picked 3 straight Senior Bowl MVPs, all of whom were quarterbacks. Davis Webb, Kyle Lauletta, and Daniel Jones, I believe, were all Senior Bowl MVPs.
Well, one of them better work out. And then the only other player to mention as far as the undrafted kids was the kid from Florida, the center. 3-year starter. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Heggie. He could have been drafted, but still, one of those fringe guys that could have been drafted. But, I think when I see his profile, kind of reminds me maybe of Nick Gates. A tough, interior guy that has all those intangibles for the position. May not have, the athletic things you're looking for. That's why he wasn't drafted. But still, that's okay for the center position. Because you are looking for leadership intangibles. You're looking for tough and smart and all that, and that's what he's got. He could play guard, obviously. He's had some injury issues over his career, which I'm sure are part of the reason he wasn't drafted. But, a player to keep an eye
on. Look, the Giants didn't draft offensive line. They thought about it a couple different points. They didn't do it. So it makes sense that they added some undrafted offensive linemen. But to me, once you passed on Rashawn Slater, it didn't make sense to draft offensive line because you don't need another developmental guy taking snaps away from Will Hernandez or Shane Lemieux or Matt Pert. You need the guys you've already invested in to get better. So no need to split the apple there and give 50% of the snaps to Pert and 50% to insert third round tackle here. Go with Pert, see if he's your guy, and then if not, then you have a problem next year. But I thought what they really needed to do was add another veteran offensive lineman, and I still think they will. As guys shake free here before training camp or after training camp, I think you'll see a veteran offensive lineman join the Giants.
Yeah, no big surprise that Eric Fisher was signed by the Colts. I mean, you could telegraph that from a mile away. So
yeah, I don't think it'll be somebody of that caliber. Somebody, maybe somebody coming off an injury with something to prove or something like that.
All right, so in closing, just taking a look at the depth chart, Toney, do you think he ends up as the number one? No, actually, Shepard is going to end up as the number one slot receiver?
Yes, I would assume the Giants' three receivers are Galladay, Kenny Galladay, and Slayton on the outside, and Shepard on the inside, with Toney kind of working his way to more reps as the season goes along.
And then the rest is just going to be a battle for who else makes the team with.
Correct. They'd like John Ross to show some of that first-round talent speed, but kind of a flyer.
And Pettis, we talked about him. He has a chance to make the team as long as he stays healthy.
Correct, especially if he can be a returner like he was in college.
On the offensive line, it's going to be Lemieux at left guard and Hernandez at right guard and Parrott at right tackle now.
I can't say I know that. I've heard that, but I can't say I know who's going to be left and right. Those are the two guards, and then the left tackle is so it's Hernandez and Lemieux at guard, Gates at center, Andrew Thomas at left tackle, and then right tackle will be Matt Parrott or Nate Solder, depending on the kind of training camp Matt Parrott
I think I was reading maybe Schwartz. I think he had an article that came out. He went over the line, and that's how he sees it right now.
Yeah.
But like you said, it doesn't really matter. Which way they start at guard. And is there anything else that the Giants did not do that you think is a big issue for them?
Yeah, offensive line. I think they need a veteran offensive lineman. But like I said, I think someone will shake free. Maybe it's Trey Turner, who was already free. Maybe he cuts down his asking price. Gettleman drafted him with the Panthers. Maybe it's somebody during training camp. But I think that's the thing they need to plug right now.
Yeah, because they say all the right things, and that's what you expect them to say. We really like the line because there's a lot of young guys they drafted. But no.
They should be a team that's threatening for the playoffs, but the line could blow up the whole season.
All right. Well, that'll wrap it up. Again, remind everybody that this is just one of many draft reviews that we've been doing since the draft. Can't wait for us to talk again when we talk Giants football, Ryan, because that means we'll be previewing training camp. So this is the dead time, really. This is the only dead time of the NFL season. Once they're done with their little,
that's why we have schedules.
Yeah,
night.
That's right. Yeah, it's a big party tonight to find out where everybody's going to play and when and all that stuff. So, all right, sounds good, Ryan. We'll talk to you again real soon. Not sure when and for why, but I'm sure we'll talk again, and looking forward to it. Thanks for helping us find out more about the Giants as usual. And again, the Giants. You have that article that's just been posted today in the New York Post for the schedule release, at least just the home games and the dates. We know that for sure. We'll find out the rest. Are you going to have an article tomorrow with the rest?
Yeah. Paul Schwartz and my colleague, we'll figure it all out.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.